Well, I can't believe it. We did one episode and we decided to do a second one, Joergen. How about that? And I wanted to kick off number one to, well, back to back. I guess we bring up Gaetano again, right? Your man G, Joergen, and he just flat out says, he goes, demand gen marketers, why you let lead gen companies to brainwash you, right? And he talks about the old school playbook. You run display, you do content syndication, you get a bunch of leads, and that playbook doesn't work anymore. That's dead. The new playbook, right? Kind of that building brand awareness, capturing demand. He's going to do his own research on his own. And I got a gripe a little bit about this actually. And it's not because I think G is necessarily wrong. It's how people are interpreting the advice. And that's kind of why I really want to do this, which is, and I see it all over LinkedIn, right? People are reading this and you read the comments like, oh, hell yeah, like lead gen's dead. One, I don't think lead gen is dead by any means. Two, that's how people are taking it. Lead gen is dead. Do not gate your ebooks. They're going straight to brand and then capturing demand, right? Kind of talked about that in the last episode, and that's what they're focused on, where I think leads are an intricate part of your marketing strategy. They should be part of the mix. The reality is they shouldn't be your only mix. And yes, the whole idea of content syndication bullshit, and then we're going to get as many leads as possible to feed the sales org and pass them off to sales. Yes, that is dead. But should you be generating right fit leads in your target ICP to nurture them long-term as part of your strategy? 100%. And that's kind of my biggest gripe as I kind of look at this topic. And I'll kick it off maybe to you, Joergen, as a kind of that VP of marketing and what you're doing and what you think about this topic.
Look, VP or not, I don't think anything is ever dead. So I think that's a little too bold for me. But do I think third-party content syndication to drive a bunch of leads is going to be a big part of my mix? Definitely not. But it is a part still for some people. Like I talked to a super credible, demand-oriented marketer just last week who was telling me she's still doing it and it's still performing for her. And that's somebody I trust. So look, it's just not dead, right? Like, but it's fun to talk shit about it. It's fun to say like, oh, well, we are far more sophisticated than that. And no diss to G, that's not what he's saying. But like, stop calling this like shit's dead. Like, no.
Yeah, I'll actually be interested in Liz's take because he really honed in on the tech buyer, right? I know Liz, your buyers are tech oriented, so kind of curious what your thought is on this whole lead gen is dead thing.
Yeah, so we have an extremely technical audience that we serve at Logi. Lead generation is not dead. You will always need leads as part of your funnel. However, lead generation as the key KPI that marketers are held to is very, very dead. It is so dead. And I think the flaw in that is that when you run just for leads, you're running content syndications. They're not matching your ICP. They're not showing intent. They're not qualified. And basically, you're just making everybody upset because you are, reaching out to people who are not ready for that sales engagement. I mean, we've all had people call us and, you just send it like directly to end. So you're basically staffing a sales team to reach out to leads that are not ready. For me, I would actually have less MQLs and more meetings and more opportunities if that's possible, right? When you run a marketing organization based on revenue, you actually focus on the KPIs that run a successful marketing strategy. So I think it as a strategy is dead. However, leads will always exist in your life cycle. You have to become a lead to have a meeting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to say this for Joergen. He knows. I mean, Drift still does some lead-based. I see gated content. They're running ads around, and he's going to rock that, right? I think that's really important for people to understand, right? Lead gen isn't dead. It's not going anywhere. I think what I finally realized is the only thing actually marketing teams have figured out how to scale is leads. When I've audited, and I'm, dozens of marketing teams, and this is honestly 90%, they have not figured out how to scale revenue yet. And I still think there's this shift happening, but that's kind of the big reality I've had is the only thing a lot of marketing teams have figured out is how to scale leads. They don't know how to scale anything else.
And scaling demand is much more difficult than scaling leads. We can all run content syndication and pay for them. We can all run very broad PPC. We can all, run a LinkedIn that's so top of funnel that you get anybody who just is interested. scaling for revenue and creating actual demand for your product is so much more complex. I actually think that running for leads is taking the easy route out.
Yeah,
Yeah. So two thoughts, right?
that's fair.
Two reasons why people are doing it. One, because it's really nice to have somebody else do the work and just have the shit come in, right? Like that's nice. And then legitimately it does work to some degree for some people. The thing is like, what's the focus of your marketing strategy, right? Where are you really placing your bets? You're not going to go all in like that's going to be our thing. What I look for is where is there an arbitrage opportunity and what fits our business, and that's it. And no, third parties content syndication is not in that conversation. So I'm with you on that one, G.
Yeah, I think, and we'll move on to the next topic. We went a little long here, but I think G in the end would agree with us with that sentiment, right? We all get it. We want to poke the bear on LinkedIn too a little bit. Next topic was brought, and I've been seeing this guy all over lately, and I think he's in a few of our topic logs. But Sangram, and he's a co-founder of Terminus, and he had a very interesting post. And essentially, it's your team is your greatest differentiator, not your product, not your brand, not your tagline. And this kind of irked me a little bit, but maybe to start, I'll pass this off to Liz and kind of get your feedback. Is your team your biggest differentiator?
I know this is one that is completely buzzed. I think your team is not your biggest differentiator. Now, we've all been a part of a sales process where somebody is just such a complete and utter dumpster fire that it just dives the sales process down. Any value that product like would have brought to you, you don't care. But for overall, your product is your differentiator. Your messaging is your differentiator. You know, you have people that drive those things, but they are not the only thing. In fact, I've seen organizations with highly exceptional people, but still a product that is the wrong fit for the market, you're never going to sell. So I do not think your team is your biggest differentiator. It has to be kind of this group project, I guess, of your team, of your product, of your messaging, of running a data-driven organization that becomes your differentiator, and your team can't carry dead weight.
It'd be interesting to chat with Sangram about this. Like, what was really the thinking here? Like, am I missing something? Because I agree with you. Like, it is not your biggest differentiator. What are we talking about? I'm fortunate to have an awesome team, very unique team, people from literally all over the world at ScreenCloud. But as awesome as the team is, like that's not it, right? Like I believe that increasingly differentiation comes from how you see the world, how you approach the work, and ultimately how you communicate that. That's what it is. Does your team play a part in identifying all that stuff and getting after it and all that? Yeah, of course. But like, that's just not it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't feel like I get this one either. And I think, if you look at the comments, I think what he's trying to get at too, for his credit, right, is more about when you give your team purpose and culture and kind of things like that, and how they can be like a meaningful differentiator for your brand and things like that. But I still, I don't fully grasp this one. And I'll tell you, I have a slightly different perspective of why. And I think of it more from like a marketing lens, which is, I've been at companies, right, where they try to message around, it's our team, it's our people, right? And I think buyers just kind of go, right? Like, that's your biggest differentiator is your team. Well, they don't care.
Every single person says that.
Yeah.
Everybody has a fantastic team on your website. How do you prove it?
That's right. And then I think the other thing that actually scares me more is the fact that if your team's your greatest differentiator, and that were true, let's say that's true, how easy would it be for your biggest competitors to poach your team then? Right? We're literally just talking money at the end of the day, and most people have a price. And if your team is what truly mattered, people will just go poach your team. And I think what I really preach and what I've really realized is when you think about high growth companies, it's the process, right? How they process go to market, how they process marketing campaigns and strategies, how they process looking at new features and functionality. All the high growth companies built process that helps their team be high performing, not high-performing teams that make them great.
That's well put, Jay. I would also say, look, when it comes to people, sure, people make up your brand and all that stuff, right? Like, it's all about the people. Like, nobody's going to argue against that, which is why it's easy to hop on that bandwagon and say, yes, Sangram, you're so right. And it's just a difference, right? Like, yes, I would like people, like my team, the company, in all of what we're doing. And I'd like to leverage that. But there's a difference between using your team properly and having your team execute according to process and actually calling the team to differentiation.
Yeah. And I think everybody thinks they have exceptional teams. I mean, many of us hired our teams from ground up. And I get what he's saying, that your team, like, you know, your product team drives your product. Your marketing team drives your marketing. But with turnover, and especially with digital transformation of hiring, I mean, people don't stay in jobs for 15 years. They cannot be the only glue. I mean, I think it's company culture. I think process plays a role. I think being a data-driven organization plays a role in kind of differentiating you across the organization, but it can't be your only differentiator.
Ultimately, it's the narrative that your team comes up with.
Yeah, piggyback from episode 1. You should go watch it. Well, 2 episodes in, what do we think? Are we going to do an episode 3?
I think we got it.
What beverage will you guys be drinking in episode 3? I'm just so curious already.
I'm doing the vitamin zero, and then he will always be Coke Zero.
And water.
I hope Liz brings the alcohol next one. So awesome. We will hit this up next week, and let's keep it rolling.